here we go.
That's not the right key.
That is not the right key.
Oh, my God.
This is horrible.
It's supposed to be E flat. We were sitting at like a D or something.
Yep. My name is Steve Peterson.
And I'm Jack Hinkle.
And today we're back from spring break. Hallelujah. Spring break is over.
Did you say how you did?
Thank goodness.
You did. Okay.
Yes. It is Eclipse Day.
Happy Eclipse Day, April 8th.
Yes. And are you going to go watch the eclipse?
I plan to.
You got your glasses?
I haven't got. Did
What
you get your?
they say 3 o'clock?
3:09.
3:09.
Wait, where are the glasses?
Somebody put them on my desk. My supplier up front. Thank you.
I'll burn my retinas later.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's fine. That's all fine. There you go.
Okay, so this is part 2 in an installment.
Part 2.
Part 2.
This is the first time we've gone back to back.
This is
exciting.
This is really exciting, and I'm really nervous. But we are in the Concord High School band room, affectionately known as B135, and we are being recorded today, Jack and myself, and a studio audience of, I'd say, 500 people?
At least.
They're like, hey! Okay, thanks for tuning in. We're out of here for Steve. Oh, okay. All right.
So today we're talking about student engagement, and this is something that we could go into many separate ways, but we've kind of told you guys before that we'll talk a little bit, and then we'll give you an opportunity to share best practices, strategies you have, or questions you may have. And again, the idea is collaborating, because that's what we find our best PD as.
Right on. Okay, so student engagement. So some of this is going to be repeat if you're listening to the episodes back to back on Spotify or the podcast. But I cannot have student engagement with 30 students unless I have engagement with one of those students.
Preach it.
And one of those students 30 times. So I cannot, when I think about talking to the jazz band, I can't just talk to the jazz band. I have to talk. When I'm talking to them, I have to think of all the students that I know in that band, okay? The students that I know and love that band. And so I can't just address them as the band. I have to address them as my kids that I know individually, and that helps, that kind of guides everything I do. So I do spend a lot of time getting to know the students. And it is important to me. That's probably the thing that's easiest for me. If we took know your students, know your content, know your teaching, the thing that would be the easiest for me if they said, okay, you had to live on an island and only do one of those, getting to know my students, that's my favorite thing.
Steve has coined the mantra, every kid, every day.
Every kid, every day.
And I don't think I've seen you fail.
Thank you. I have failed, but you just haven't seen it. But
there you go.
It is, I do love, I love getting in there with people, and since students are, that's my vocation, I really do enjoy getting in there, and it's not something I really have to manufacture or fake. But that is something that I also know that helps me in the long ball, getting to know my students. It's not just getting to know them just to be buddies. It's not that. It's so I can have a better class cohesion and help the group move quicker.
And there was a teacher at the school by the name of Gay Burton a while ago, and she taught jazz band. And you've told me this because I wasn't around for her, but she said that she would spend a lot of time listening to music in her class, and people would be like, how do you have time?
Oh, yeah.
How do you have time to listen? And she thought it was so important that she said, we don't have time not to listen. And I think that's kind of the same way we look at getting to know our students and talking to our students, and that we will start class a couple minutes late, and some teachers might say, well, how do you have time to do that? And I don't think you have time not to.
Preach. There you go.
Yeah, that's it.
So from a round of applause here, or just a shout out, how many people teach K4 in this room right here?
Yeah.
We got spirit. Yes, we do. Okay. 5, 6.
Oh, I do teach
Thank
5.
you.
I
Okay.
teach 5.
7, 8. High school. Woo! Okay. Ready? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is when we open the microphone. So what this is going to be is you come on down here. We're going to ask you to introduce yourself and tell us what you teach, and then ask your question or state your statement about student engagement, and then we'll have time to reflect on it, and then also involvement from you, the studio audience. This is a collaboration. This is kind of like a Chops episode on steroids. Instead of 2 hosts, we have all of us.
Yep.
Okay, so first contestant, right up. Let's go. Classic. Just like my classes every single day. Okay, we're going to
Well, you know, last time you made every kid raise their hand,
Oh, yeah.
and then you told them, okay, if you put it down, I'll call on you. You remember that?
Yeah. Okay, so
we could have everyone come up to the mic.
Yeah. Okay. So again, let me say this again. We would like to invite somebody to come down, state your name and your teaching, and then I'm looking at you there, Andrew. Then ask or your comment about student engagement, and then that's a springboard. Okay. Don't be shy. Come on down there, cuties.
This is good karma for you when you're teaching and your classes aren't
Yeah.
raising their hands. Just think, like, come on.
So
We got it.
Oh, here we go.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Yes. Oh,
Yes.
wait, this is wait, the first. Oh, we have a celebrity. This is the first lady of Dunlap. This you. Okay, Smiley, you want to introduce yourself?
Colleen Molnar. I teach kindergarten at Southside.
Yes, you do.
I would like to reflect on how my students might feel when they really don't understand what's being asked of them or understanding the task and feeling anxious, like I was just feeling. Like wanting to do well, wanting to provide, but really not knowing what to say and needing more feedback as the teacher. And so thinking about standing in front of my class and saying, okay, guys, come on, tell me more. And I keep getting blank stares. Well, then I think it needs to be me giving them more so then they can give me more.
Thank you. Colleen Molnar, thank you. So thank you for coming up here, First Lady. FLD, First Lady of Dunlap. Okay. That's because her husband, Dr. Molnar, is the principal. I almost said president of Concord. He is the principal of Concord High School. So I think, wasn't that like a familiar feeling? That pregnant pause that we just had? See, you're doing it now. You're like, okay, well, that's like a familiar feeling. We're like, okay, who wants to come up here? Okay, so you go through that, and sometimes you're not sure if the students understand, right? That's what you're asking or telling, like you don't understand. That feeling sometimes is like all too familiar. So my spin on that, if you want my spin, can I give you my spin? I think it's a me problem, because I don't think I've maybe primed the pump enough, and I haven't really scaffolded. That's a buzzword these days, but scaffolded the task in a way that it's just like easy peasy for the kids to get into it, like immediate success. So I think about like here is an example of like with the jazz band. Like, okay, you throw out something like, okay, today we're gonna do this 12-bar blues. We're gonna play this B flat blues, and like, Nikki, you're gonna improvise. And Nikki's like, what? You're gonna? And like, what do you mean by that? And so like the idea of giving them something, Nikki, you're gonna play these two notes, only these two notes, and you're gonna play for 16 counts. I'm going to count to 16. You can only play these two notes. But giving Nikki something very, very tangible and something very digestible that she can present, and not saying, okay, who wants to improvise? But like saying, Nikki, you're going to improvise, but we're going to use these two notes. Okay? Jack, what do you got?
One of the things that we do all the time is talk to each other about things that don't go well in our classroom, and maybe it could be something like that. Kids aren't responding. And I think the thing that works for me and also works for Steve, if I can speak for you, is that we never go like, oh, like, why were the kids doing that today?
Right.
It always comes back to us. And, student engagement is like an everlasting puzzle, and the pieces are sometimes all white, and you're missing 12 of them, and you never know where they are, and you just got to figure it out. And you keep coming back to it and try and figure it out. And usually we find some success along the way when we keep trying to change it up and never feel defeated.
Right. I do. I appreciate like talking with Jack and some of my other colleagues, is that like when we feel defeated by students, and students, if you're listening, it's okay, because sometimes your teachers do feel defeated. But the idea is not like, what is wrong with those kids? Like, why aren't they? It's like, what do I need to give them so they feel comfortable doing this, this, and this? Like, how can I change my approach so they feel comfortable, or they feel more responsible, or they feel more dedicated? Oh, they're not dedicated. Like, they just don't care. Well, that's kind of bad because that's on me. Okay, and maybe our coaches could, jump in on that too. But, thinking about caring and about being participants in the class, and that's a culture that we are the ones that create that culture. That is not like if you come into your class and you have a group of kids that are like the leaders of the school, and your class is cruising, you're lucky. You're not a leader. You're lucky that you got all those kids in your class. Okay, give me your downtrodden, your broken, give me your kids that don't talk, your selective mute kids, right? Seriously, give me those kids that can't look at you in the eye. Give me the kids that have the AirPod in all the time and their hood up all the time. Like, give me those kids. But it's not like, oh, this class stinks. It's like, okay, I don't have the right tools to get them, and I got to sharpen. I got to find the tools to get to these kids. So I think that's like a kind of an offshoot of chops that we've enjoyed, is like how to problem solve and not just complain. Because we can do that. We're allowed to do that, and we should do that. But then also we have to think, okay, what can we do to make this better? The band doesn't sound good. Why doesn't the band sound good? Okay, and go back to work on that. Okay. Contestant number 2.
Yeah.
Look at this specimen of a teacher right here. He's a cutie. Okay, go ahead and say your name and occupation.
My name is Andrew Stevens. I teach at the STEM special at Southside.
And he's standing in a lunge.
The microphone does
the
tilt
power.
up.
Okay,
it
just
does.
There we go.
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you. Now I feel.
So what grade?
nuts.
At what grade level again?
Kindergarten through 4th grade.
Okay, thank you.
So
STEM.
my question, my class is like a newer class here at Concord, and I've noticed a lot of my class is really focusing on telling kids it's okay to fail. But it's hard to. It seems like it's hard for them to be okay with that. Like, there's this mindset that I'm not allowed to fail, which is very real, because failure apparently comes into like this idea of it's bad or it's a judgment on you. But it's so interesting for me dealing with it with 5 to 10-year-old kids that have already instilled that. And so I guess my question is, what do you guys see from the ages that you guys are teaching at to help maybe some of these kids overcome that sense of failure, to keep them engaged, to do the activity even though it might not go the way they planned?
Thank you, Andrew Stevens. Thank you. Want to lead off?
I would kind of, like, in my mind, hearing you say that, I kind of flipped it the other way immediately, as in, how can I get them experiencing success? That's kind of how I took it. And something that we do a lot, and I'm sure all of you guys do, is scaffold. And starting from like the very bottom, if I'm giving my students a task that's too hard for them, I'll change it 9 times out of 10, and I'll break it down to something smaller. And if they can't do that, I break it down into something smaller. And if I think on a good day for me, and this would never happen, but if I'm approaching it this way, if I can get my students to be successful at every task they approach on that day, then scaffolding is working, and I just got to keep bumping it up a little bit more. And that's something that I'm really, really focused on, is how can I break it down so it's at just the right amount of difficulty and rigor for them to be successful, and then build it from there.
Yep. I think of the going back to the diversity of student learners that we have, from the students that are, have a 5.12 grade point average to students that are maybe not going to graduate, and helping them all feel, regardless of their success, helping them all feel like A+ students individually, and so we have the pleasure of teaching. We have 4 concert bands at the high school, and we happen to work with the one that is the youngest and the least proficient, and then we also work with the one that is the oldest and the most proficient. And so we get to see that diversity of student learners, but there is no more dedication to like one group or the other. So I'm thinking about the students at the lower proficiency level, like my job, part of the class time, is to make them feel like they're an A+ student, and they might be listening now, so hello. But like, I want you to feel success in my class. I want you to feel like you're the student leader in my class. I don't care if you're the 15th clarinet out of 12. Like, I want you to feel like you matter. Like, you matter, like, to the group. You matter, like, how you look, how you sit, how you sound, how you talk to me. That matters in my class, you know? So giving each, I know this sounds like a Hallmark thing, but giving each student value. And not just because I think that, but because I show them that. And also because of my expectations. And, you know, I'm scaffolding my approach to them, helping them be successful, but so they can kind of feel like they're a part of the group, not like, oh, I can never get there. But then also tempering the students that have the, 5.0 grade point average, giving them not humble pie, but then also challenging them. Like, what can you do? And how can you share with what you know, and also challenge them for higher and better ideas. So, okay. Next studio audience member. Come on up, please.
Oh. Yes.
See me after class for your Starbucks.
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Yes! Yes! Finally!
Yes.
Your
Mike
name?
McComish, teach the high school, teach principles of construction, advanced manufacturing. What I'd like to hear from you guys a little bit is more about, I think we have, being or hands-on, we have a lot more kids engaged that maybe some other teachers don't, just because it's more up their alley. But there's always those handful of kids that seem to, we might look back and say, well, they checked out or they didn't. And I always kind of reflect back and say, okay, what could I have done differently? And obviously some of these things you talk about, I feel like if I would start that earlier on, that would have a bigger impact. So I'd like to kind of see with some of those kids the success you've had and so forth. So I'll go ahead and hang up now and let you guys talk.
Wow. That's Mike McComish. Thank you.
To me, that goes back to like the every kid, every day thing. And the every kid, every day doesn't have to just be like a social thing, like meeting up with your kids, but can be just checking in with how are you succeeding? How are you slowing down with your growth? And what can I do as a teacher to do that? And, teaching a skills-based class, which we do, and especially for ours where we teach a band, you can look at the band as the whole and how do they sound, and then you can check in with the individuals and how does the individual sound. And sometimes the band is blowing up this person over here, like they're passing them, and sometimes this kid's doing way better. And trying to balance all of those things and getting in there with the individuals and seeing how they're progressing and what they're doing. And can I take like 2 minutes, literally 2 minutes out of the class and make that kid better while keeping the other 90% of the class moving? That's something that I think about all the time, and I want to be better at it, but I want to be cognizant of that too, just making sure that I'm touching individuals with their skills and I'm still hitting the entire class. And, I think that would translate to any other class.
Right. Hitting the individuals, and not just the class. It makes me think of like, some of you may have seen the marching band practice, but you have 200 plus students, and maybe you might have 2 adults up top in a scaffold, upstairs in a staircase, but then also you have a number of staff on the field. And if you're on the field and there's, you're looking at 50 or 60 kids, it can be like overwhelming, like, oh my gosh, like I'm trying to do everything for every kid. And going back to your question, like how do I keep them on, the students that are achieving success or maybe having a pleasurable experience and achieving something, is that being very, like if I'm working with 30 clarinets on the field and they're doing some formations and they're playing something, making sure I'm giving those comments to the entire student section that I'm working with, but then also being very direct with specific students about specific skills, like very direct. And so what I tell you is going to be much different than I'm going to tell Jack, but make sure that you're, working on this with your feet, working on this with your chin position, and not just blanket, buckshot over the entire group, but just being very calculated and taking that time to make those personal corrections. Same thing like in the classroom, if we're in a band of 40 students that are sitting down, Jack, if I'm on the podium here, Jack may be sitting with the flutes. He may be standing with the bass drum. He may be sitting with the tuba player. And it's just constantly giving them insider information, just more direct insider specific information has been very helpful. And again, it goes back to that student relationship. It's like one of the things we love to do. And I think you probably do too. Okay. I think we have, what time we got out here? 50? 50? Got 5 minutes? 55. Okay. We have time for another call. We'd like you to invite you to come up at this time. Look at those hands go up. Okay. Look at it. Wow. You can't see this at home if you're just listening to the podcast. I don't know who to pick. All right? I mean, this is amazing because now. Okay, go. Yeah, come on up.
Hi, Colleen Molnar revisiting. Andrew Stevens is.
Like, can you say first-time caller, long-time listener?
Oh, from day one listener.
Hooah.
Second-time caller. Yes. So I want to circle back to Andrew's comment about failing forward, if you will.
Ooh.
That I struggle with this too. And again, with his question leading to kids maybe learning or being okay with failing in the upper grades or learning how to fail, where I notice that kids that just already know things in elementary and just know things and coast through elementary, and then the kids that don't know anything have to work harder and fail more often, and that learning to learn is different than the kids that already know. And then how the kids that already know experience failure is something I struggle with. But also that, like, I just think about stacking pom-poms, like little bitty pom-poms, that if the task was stack 10 pom-poms, well, chances are it's going to fail no matter how you scaffold it.
Sure.
But making that an okay thing and thinking about the more you try hard things and the more you fail, the more the learning's going to stick. And so what I think, Andrew, and if I'm wrong, correct me, somehow making failing okay and engaging to enhance the learning, not making everybody feel fantastic all of the time to promote the learning.
Wow, that's like bravo, because the kindergarten classes, you're the pre-K, but nursery's mom and dad, but right, but the kindergarten classes, that's where you start to, like, it almost begins, doesn't it? The slotting, right? The slotting, and so for better or for worse, kids understand that I got it or I don't, and then 18 or 16 years later, they're like, I don't got it, or I do. It's hard to push those kids into that next lane and also help keep those kids in check that got it. So you don't got it all. You got what we're asking, but that's just the pinhead of the world, right? So,
and it does make me check myself because a lot of our classes are slotted, right? I mean, I teach jazz 3, and you teach jazz 2 and 1. We teach like band number 4, band number 1. So that's helpful for me to hear too. And thinking of this concept of failing forward, something that drives us nuts in marching band is when we ask the kids to perform something, and maybe it's one set where they move from one picture to another picture in 16 counts for the first time. And the first time they do it, it's horrible every time. And we know it's going to be horrible. That's how it goes. Mm-hmm. And the first thing that they do, I mean, they stand like this, and we use this term called set. And then when they're stopped, they go to what we call standby, which is when they just kind of wait. And they're here, and then we say standby. And then they have to talk like this to the person. They stand up like a whole bunch. They just go giggling. And like we know it's going to happen. Brian's laughing because he's seen it, yeah. We know it's going to happen because we've done this so much, and we know. And the first thing I ask myself is, aren't I smarter than this? Like, can't I figure this one out? So what we've started doing
Jack's very good at this.
I say, okay, we're going to do this 3 times. We're going to do this same thing 3 times. And I'm talking to high schooler kids, not kindergartners. And 3 times. The first time, expect it to go poorly.
Check.
Check. I will not teach you the second time or the third time. The first time, it's going to go poorly. The second time, you'll probably get it a little closer. The third time, chances are you'll get it almost 100%. I'm not going to teach you. I'm not going to say anything. We're just going to stop, reset, go. And they've kind of been uncomfortable the first few times doing that, but now we've kind of taught that skill because it's really a skill more than a behavior of just trying to be comfortable with that. And teaching that skill, and then once you kind of have that in your classroom going a few times, we've seen some success. And you kind of build the skill of running it that way.
Yep.
And then it also builds the skill of being comfortable in the failure. And no, you don't have to talk to the person next to you about how much you blew that one up. Like, it's okay. You get another shot, and the third time, you'll be okay.
Right. Yeah. And of course, marching band and music lends itself to drill, like an athletic skill or a physical skill, but just also it is kind of cleansing for you as a teacher to say, okay, they got 3 times. First time, I'm not going to say anything. Second time, not going to say anything. Third time, then we'll wrap it up. And that's like so much more empowering for the students to chew on that, right? And to let them know what's going on and let them achieve.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you, First Lady. Okay.
Probably have time for
One more.
One more.
We got some administrators here. I'd love to hear some engagement here. Oh, yes. Everybody sit up. Principal's coming. Your name and how long have you been in?
How long have I been?
Yeah. No.
Seth, first-time caller,
Yeah.
long-time listener.
Welcome, Seth.
I was on hold for like 45 minutes. Thanks for that. But I think
Seth is our principal. Go. Dr. Molnar.
Seth, can you
think
come
that
closer to the
I
mic?
would-
Closer to the mic. There you go.
I would really like for you guys to talk a little bit about, and I know at the district level, we've talked about this a lot, about checks for understanding, but I've had the privilege of being in both of you guys' classrooms many, many, many times. And I think you guys are masters of it. And it goes along to what you say about making sure you check in on each kid and how they're learning. But I think your small strategies, your big strategies are second to none. And some would say, well, these guys teach marching band. It's an elective. Kids are opting into this. It's not only that. I have seen some amazing strategies with Jack. We asked Jack to teach a class that's he's not even licensed to teach. We asked him to teach a FACS adult roles class. And I still see those monster checks for understanding strategies in your classroom. So if you want to talk a little bit about how we build engagement with checks for understanding and how you work with your class in that regard, that would be really appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you, Seth.
Dr. Molnar.
Fortunately, in a band class, anytime the kids play their instrument is a check for understanding. I mean, that's how it is. You either got it or you don't. And you can't really, I mean, you can hide if you're in a big group, but yeah, as Seth was saying, that individual accountability, and our classes are small enough, we can kind of tell, right? So every time the kids play, which is pretty much the entire class, is a check for understanding. And a lot of it is just do it again. That's kind of changed my teaching, is just do it again. I used to talk a lot, probably my first 3 or 4 years, and now I talk a lot less, and I just have them play more.
Right.
That seems like a simple answer, but the results are different.
Are we getting called out?
It's getting soon. Oh, because we have to do our promos, too.
To do our promos. Okay. So, okay. Adult roles.
Adult roles.
Yeah,
Oh,
Jack.
boy.
How do you do that? I want to know.
Can I call a friend? Okay. For adult roles, I was just mowing the lawn, and what I mean by that is that there are desks, set up in a grid, and I'm just up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down, talking to every kid, looking at every kid's iPad. Are they participating? Are they typing? Are their fingers touching the screen? And sometimes you got to pick up the kid's hands and set them on the keyboard. I've done that. Guilty.
He's like the puppet master.
Yeah, I was like a madman in there, and the kids are like, "What is wrong with you?" And I'm like, "Caffeine." I don't know, but that. I mean, I was relentless in that room trying to get him to go that. So that's my adult roles.
Good job.
Thanks.
Yeah. So I think we're at the end of our time together for Chops Live 2.0. We'd like to thank our studio audience for being here today. It will release next Tuesday. If you follow one of those little things, you can get the reels or you can get the full podcast. And we encourage you, our subscribers or listeners, to make sure that you're subscribed to Chops_podcast on Spotify or Apple. And also you can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube if you want to watch this whole monkey show live with
real.
all the videos and everything.
It's
So
real.
thank you for Concord for allowing us to host today, and for Steve Peterson.
And Jack Hinkle.
We're out of here.
See ya.